the Arizona Cardinals have officially been eliminated from playoff contention, turning them into the proverbial pumpkin. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast platform on the planet. Unbelievable. I wish the Cardinals production was as fruitful and positive as the Locked On Podcast Network. So the last several years, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. We've got a lot to chunk down on here today. I want to talk outside the numbers, okay? Because the numbers themselves aren't fantastic. Not only this season, but Jonathan Gannon, Drew Petzing, and Nick Rallis' tenure, not great. And with those, I'll discuss the facts in the second segment. Things that are irrefutable because they actually happened and are not based on opinion. And, listen, I know that people are pissed. People feel duped, like me. People are pointing fingers at everything and then arguing that their side is worse than the other side as to who's at fault for what's going on in the Travis Shea mockery of a season that is the 2025 season for the Arizona Cardinals, now falling to 3-9. Let's commiserate together. The Cardinals have turned into proverbial pumpkins. They're out of playoff contention, and I feel like an idiot. You know, I didn't see this coming. Even with all the history, even with them not winning in 2023 or 2024, and even with all the injuries sustained, I did not see this. 7 games decided by 3 or less, Cardinals 0-7. Even the 2 wins before the bye, you couldn't enjoy. The only game that was really enjoyable was the game out of the bye against the Dallas Cowboys on Monday night when the defense was totally healthy for the first time since week 2. These are all things we've discussed. Okay, so the Cardinals lose 20-17 in another one-score game. And the most troubling part about all of this, when you look at the entirety of the season, doesn't matter who's quarterback, doesn't matter who's healthy, doesn't matter who's injured, doesn't matter. The Cardinals were in every single one of these games. This isn't like, oh, they were down 17-0, and then they come back and they score a meaningless touchdown with 1 minute left or 30 seconds left to lose 17-14. These were seesaw battles throughout, aside from the Seattle and 49ers blowout games a few weeks ago. I mean, that's the part that is so difficult to wrap your head around. You can blame all you want. You can blame coaching. You can blame players. You can blame injuries. You can blame whatever you want. You can blame the Easter Bunny. But the fact that the Cardinals are unable to win close games needs to be studied with how it's happened this year. I've really struggled with this. I've looked, it's like, well, how is this happening? Because here's the thing. And this is a huge delineation, a huge differentiator between, they backdoor get into, a 3-point game when the game's over and they're in games and they just don't execute down the stretch. Like that last part, they don't execute down the stretch is true. But the weird part is 3rd and 14s, 3rd and longs, 2nd and longs, long touchdown throws, things like that throughout the game up until that last couple minutes, they've been able to execute. They've bailed themselves out multiple times on 3rd and long with just go routes over the last handful of weeks that kept them in games. So they're able to execute the clunky until that last 5 minutes of the 4th. And then the wheels fall off. I don't know what the game plan was going into that last drive with under 2 minutes left and a timeout, but yuck. 2 underneath throws. Okay, so let's break this down rationally. The underneath throws are there because the defense is playing back. They're giving them the little dump downs. They're defending the sidelines, which won't allow the backs to get out of bounds, so the clock ticks. There's got to be an alternative. There's got to be a better way. Maybe that's on the receivers to come back to the ball and break their routes, but it's not like he was getting bombarded with pressure where he couldn't have spun out and actually, Jacoby Brissett couldn't have extended plays. It was just so bad. And so, not getting a first down there, it's just so tough. Not getting a first down there is just so tough, man. It's like usually that first down is a gimme. Usually that first down is a no-brainer. They don't care. It's like, just stay on this side of the 50. Run the clock. But the fact that both backs couldn't get out of bounds. And then third and medium across the middle, or third and short across the middle. And then the biggest indictment after the game, which was just salt in the earth-sized wound of this offense, was Todd Bowles said, "Oh yeah, we knew the play. Good film week. We knew the play." It's like, sweet. And the only defense that I have with that fourth down play is all we've said all year is just don't run the ball at the gut with Michael Carter. Do something different. They did something different. Unfortunately, it was so obvious to a long-standing, long-tenured head coach, DC. I mean, Todd Bowles has done everything. Obviously, he's been a head coach for the last decade or so, plus, I think, with the Jets and the Bucks. On and off, obviously, because BA was there. But, if it's that obvious, that's bad. And only to compound it by Jonathan Gannon saying he loved the play calls. So there's a lot back and forth conversations that I have with fans, with my buddies in the media, with, just people asking about the Cardinals. And them turning into pumpkins, I say it as it's obviously an homage to Cinderella. There's no real, outside of, the younger guys that you're going to watch, you're going to be like, okay, this is going to be good for the future. There's not going to be any more redeeming quality this season tied to this season directly. And I think because they're eliminated from playoff contention, that's pretty obvious. The next questions are going to be, and what we're going to be talking about a lot on this show, is what's next for the coaching staff, what's next for the vets, but primarily what's next for the coaching staff and who's the quarterback going to be in 2026. Because Jonathan Gannon's unwavering devotion to Drew Petzing, while respectable in a sense of leadership, also pulls like a transparent wool over people's eyes because they can see it. They see what the hell's going on. They see, especially the situational play calling, falling short every single time you need it. And saying, why do you say that these plays are good play calls? He's defending his guy. And while it sounds insane, this is what competent failure looks like. Dysfunctional failure is a lot more poisonous. But in the long run, they're both failure. And the Cardinals are failing and have failed in front of our very eyes this season with well over a month to go in the regular season. What are the facts? What do we know? It's not good. Discuss it next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by the Game Time app. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be huge. It's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part, and that's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes down to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app, and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event. with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, Game Time. I'm trying to figure out a way to blame injuries on why this is happening. And it's something that I don't do. It's not like a badge of honor. Like, oh, I don't talk about injuries. Look at me. Give me a trophy. It's more, why isn't it working when you're losing one-score games? Is it because Walter Nolan isn't out there? Is it because Marv left the game early? Is it because the offensive line hasn't lived up, even though they only gave up 2 sacks? And I think they were both in the first half this past week. Is it because they can't run the ball? Is it because Jacoby Brissett ain't getting it done? Is it the play calling? Like, this is the tough part. You could say yes to everything, but the facts are the facts. Jonathan Gannon is a losing head coach. Drew Petzing is a losing offensive coordinator. Nick Rallis is a losing defensive coordinator. Monti Ossenfort is a losing GM. Those are the facts. And it's not close. It's obvious that they are severely under 500 with all 4 of those guys at their respective posts. Those are facts. Another fact, Kyler Murray missed the first half of their first season. Kyler Murray's missed all but 5 games this season. So you've had Kyler Murray for about a little over half the time that you've been head coach. Well, Alex, you said Kyler Murray's not the guy. You said Jacoby Brissett's the guy for the future. What I said was, when Kyler Murray's healthy, he should start. And I stand by that. We'll see what happens if they open the window next week. I think Jacoby Brissett in this offense gives the Cardinals the best chance to win. I do. I'm a Kyler Murray guy. I've been a Kyler Murray guy since day one. Check the tape. Since 2019, I've stood on the show and defended him. And then when he got hurt, I saw a different side of this offense that I hadn't seen before. Now, it hasn't amounted to any wins, 1-7. It hasn't amounted to any real confidence moving forward in anybody outside of a handful of blue chippers the Cardinals have. That's true. That's a fact. And also, what I'm trying to do is formulate what could be with what's on the field and which players are healthy and the scheme and everything like that. But it's undeniable that by sheer metrics, Drew Petzing has a losing offense. That's just the truth, okay? Well, you said that he should come back next year. He's not an outside chance that he's not going to come back next year. I stand by that. I'm not saying it's the right call. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying that everything is on the table, and it's going to be difficult to figure out a way to fashion him coming back with Jonathan Gannon having 1 year left on his deal and neither of the coordinators having it. The facts are, everybody who is chirping, everybody, messaging, comments, I always want the interaction. I love it. I want to build this community. Everybody chirping out Drew Petzing needs to be fired has an absolute, rock solid case. Everybody says that Jonathan Gannon should be fired. Has a rock solid case. There's no denying the numbers. And the part that I struggle with is this doesn't look like what it looked like with the last head coach. And I may have said something dumb going back that I would take this 3-9 regime over the 10-2 Cliff team. I'd probably take that back. Sometimes I say things that I go back and think about and don't agree with later. But my point was, and I should have articulated this more clearly, so apologies. This, although the product is failing, this is what a stable organization does when things are failing. And I know that's difficult to compute, and I was really trying to find the right wording for it. The dysfunction with this team is in the actual action of the players and the coaches. Well, that's obvious. Okay, right. So I'm not like, oh, great. The dysfunction is not in the water. The well isn't poisoned, just the play. So, again, I'm not trying to be a philosopher here, but over the course of the existence of this team, there's been dysfunction. And I think that's obvious, okay? Michael Bidwell, whatever you want to say. I'm not even talking about Steve Keim or Cliff or anything like that. I'm just saying universally, there's been dysfunction. The report cards, former players coming out and saying it's not fun to play for this team, things like that. I may be just insane, okay? But as I pivot to the, official outside the numbers segment, let's take all of the win-loss stuff out of it just for a second. Okay, obviously that's the only thing that matters when it comes down to it. I completely agree. And I'm not championing, I'm not lining up to have, this whole wind-up where it's like, oh, let's win one for the Gipper and everybody comes back. That's not what this is going to be. Let's take all the wins and losses out of it. It feels different by how things are being run. Unified front, everybody going down with the ship, everything like that. And I'm not grasping it, green ribbon straws here. It's just the truth. Like Darius Robinson even came out and said, it's on us, talking about the players. He said, Jonathan Gannon is perfect. This isn't a team that's turning on their coaches. This isn't a team that's turning on themselves. This is a team that just can't win close games. Well, that's what it's all about. Agreed. A million times over agreed. But if everybody was turning on everybody and there were locker room issues and there were coaches, the people like not playing for the coaches, the Cardinals are playing hard. They're just losing games. Not a green ribbon, not a consolation prize. And really, of course, when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter if they're not winning games. But the distinguisher for me, the separator for me, is that the unified front says, you know what? We're locking arms and going down together instead of turning on each other. And that is what a functionally run organization does, who is just failing at football this year. And I hope that those couple minutes kind of make sense where it's like, yeah, it's not good. And it could be a lot worse if the unified front wasn't so ironclad. Is that going to mean that these guys are going to be back next year? Absolutely not. But I think this is the most adult way to maneuver through these choppy waters and just figure it the hell out on the other side at the end of the season. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Outside the numbers, I alluded to it a little bit there. Let's dive into it deeper next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by PrizePicks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports, bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Creating a lineup takes less than a minute, and the app makes the whole process smooth and easy. You just choose from a huge range of unique stats, fantasy score, field goal attempted, free throws made, turnovers, whatever fits your specific strategy. And deposits and withdrawals are quick and easy, which keeps everything flowing. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals. Hit that subscribe button, man. This is tough. I promise that I will be here with you every day, and we'll talk it through together. just another reiteration that last few minutes was not giving this coaching staff or, roster a pass for what's going on. Okay. But I think it's important to mention that there are different ways this can go. Nobody's turning on anybody. They're losing 1-score games. So yeah, you want to say that's coaching? Cool. We'll just chalk it up to coaching and move off from everybody and then start the whole search again. May not be the best option, but that's an option. I think, this is really, who are you going to go get if you fire Jonathan Gannon? He's got 1 year left on his deal. I have no problem with a lame duck head coach, quote unquote lame duck head coach, being 1 year left on his deal. He's not getting an extension. I'm not saying that he's done enough as a head coach to warrant coming back. Not saying that. I'm not saying that him defending the play calling is the right thing to do. Not saying that. But I'd much rather the obvious covering up statements as compared to, yeah, we got to figure it out on offense, or, things got to change. Doesn't help anybody. Doesn't help anybody. If you want to fire Drew Petzing, fine. The run game looked good last year. The run game looked good, better. It looked average to slightly above average to start the season. Then James Conner got hurt. Trey Benson got hurt. The offensive line's been bad. Justin Fry may not be the guy at O-line, the O-line coach, but it is on Drew Petzing. And then by proxy is on Jonathan Gannon to figure things out irrespective of injuries and who's actually healthy and on the field. Outside the numbers, and this is factual, the Cardinals haven't been healthy all year. I know every team deals with injuries. Teams who make pushes and make deep playoff runs more times than not are the quote-unquote lucky ones who don't sustain a massive wave of injuries like the Cardinals have. It's pretty much true. Kyler Murray's been out. Jacoby Brissett's done as well as a backup quarterback can do, in my opinion. I mean, the numbers are there. And this whole thing about garbage time stats, yeah, against San Francisco, they were garbage time, sure. Oh, the garbage time stats this past week when they were down 10 with 9 minutes to go, that doesn't count as garbage time. They're within 10 points the whole game at most. That was the biggest deficit. So that's not garbage time points. It was 29-40 for 300 yards and a couple touchdowns and a tipped interception. It's what else do you want? These are starter numbers. Now, outside the numbers, I just don't know if this offense can sustain 3 pass catchers. It's just from the eye test. It just looked clunky. And this isn't like basketball where, you have a star player who's hurt and, he's maybe more of a ball dominant guy and he comes in and then the offense looks clunky for a week, for a few games because you're not used to it. You've gotten a different flow. Say, I don't know, whoever it is out for a month. Like say James Harden or, whoever it is out for a month and then he comes back and it's well, we've got this flow going and then now it's back and now the ball dominant guy and then things are clunky. That's not this. Routes are run the exact same way, just depending on the players who are running them. And obviously play calling is going to come into play a little bit when you've got Marv and Michael Wilson and Trey McBride all healthy. But it looks like from the eye test that this specific offense has an A and a B, and that's pretty much it. You put Marv and Michael Wilson's numbers together yesterday, great. Wide receiver 1 numbers. You split them up, 6 for 69 and 3 for 45, whatever Michael Wilson ended up with, not fantastic. So there's a lot of things, positive and negative, outside of the numbers that need to be discussed, but it's I just wish that there was a right way to either move on, regroup, or in some form or fashion, move on a little bit, retain a little bit, and have that elixir to move forward in 2026. As of right now, there are just so many more questions and answers. And if you want to fire everybody, fine. It makes sense. By the facts, by the numbers. If you want to bring back Jonathan Gannon because he's a great leader of men and has brought stability to this team, even though he's had wins and losses, that makes sense to me too. I'm sorry, it does. Then if you want to blow it all up, factually speaking, that would make sense also. So what I'm tasked to do is present all options, give thoughts on all of them, and then, kind of come to a determination on what's best. At this point, 5 weeks left in the season, you and I need to figure out what we're watching regarding takeaways that are sustainable for the future. And there are plenty of guys who are going to produce, plenty of guys who are going to solidify their roles, plenty of guys who are working for contract extensions to see what this team's going to look like in 2026 and who the quarterback's going to be, who the head coach, who the coordinators are going to be. It's TBD, and it's going to be TBD for quite some time. So we just got to continue working through this. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.